guys, this is Setsme, and I'm coming to you with another deck profile this week, and this week I am doing Superheavy Samurais. It's a fun deck, it's not competitive whatsoever, but it's an all-monster deck as you guys can see, and it really is a lot of fun just because when you it just does it can do a lot of stupid things, and it's just a lot of things are unexpected, especially some of the cards that are coming out in Bosch within the next week. So let's get into it. I'm playing 3 Super Heavy Samurai Trumpeter. This guy is the main tuner for the deck, and also if he's tributed for the tribute summon of a Super Heavy Samurai monster, um, and you have no spell or traps in your graveyard, you can special summon this card. The reason why this deck is so heavy on monsters, obviously, is the fact that you can't have spell or trap cards in your graveyard. Now, I could be playing cards like Breakthrough Skill that can banish themselves, but it can slow down the deck a little bit, and honestly, I'd much rather have just a pure monster deck, and just because it is a fun deck to begin with, but just so the deck can run without really me worrying about any constraints of things being in my graveyard like Breakthrough Skill. So that's why I'm playing it the way it is. I also play 3 Super Heavy Samurai Flutist. When he is in the graveyard, you can banish him from the graveyard and negate the activation of any card or effect that targets a Super Heavy Samurai monster you control, and then destroy that card. And this is essentially just a Divine Wrath, and it just does anything. And pretty much the cards that you're going to be summoning most of the time are, in fact, Super Heavy Samurais. So that's why he's so important, and he's so easy to get in the graveyard, because if you tribute him, you get to special summon one Super Heavy Samurai monster from your hand, which is also awesome. I then play the other tuner, Super Heavy Samurai Battle Ball, and he's a pretty nifty card. A lot of people don't play him at 3. I like him at 3. Even though he does target, there's 2 decks right now that are immune to targeting, but one of them is not entirely immune. So I just want to make that point clear. And that deck I'm referring to is Cosmos. So Super Heavy Samurai Battle Ball isn't necessarily like a terrible card. It's very interesting. What it does is that you can target one face-up monster your opponent controls, send both it and this card to the graveyard, and then special summon from your extra deck one Synchro Super Heavy Samurai monster whose level equals the total levels of both Battle Ball and your opponent's monster combined. And it's counted as a Synchro summon. So Battle Ball is definitely interesting. He's like a mini mind control or whatever, and then you get to Synchro Summon with him. So Battle Ball, definitely interesting. Moving on, I'm playing 3 Super Heavy Samurai Scales. He has sort of like a hat trigger effect where you can special summon him if your opponent controls 2 or more monsters, and but it's only if you can control no monsters, which is a little bit of it kind of sucks, but whatever. Also, if he's normal special summon, you can target one level 4 or lower Super Heavy Samurai monster in your graveyard and special summon that target. So he can recur some of your little tuners, or one of the rank 4s, or even Super Heavy Samurai Thief, which is one of the best cards for Super Heavy Samurais. But yeah, it's very, very useful, like, to have him and just being able to recur monsters from the graveyard. The next card is Super Heavy Samurai Magnet. When he's normal summoned, you can special summon one level 4 or lower Super Heavy Samurai monster from your hand. Actually, no, this guy can't summon Thief. I just realized that. My bad. But anyway, moving on. Magnet, he's changed to defense position, and then you can rank 4 or whatever, or synchro. So it's just really up to you. Also, your opponent has to target Magnet with attacks if he's still on the field and you have other Super Heavy Samurais on the field, so, or whatever other monsters that you have. So Magnet's pretty useful, and if you get 2 on the field, you can create like a mini lock, like that old stupid lock where you like have 2 monsters on the field and you can't. It's I believe it was the what's it called? It was a warrior type monster level 3, and I can't think of it right now, but if someone can comment below and remind everyone what that monster was, he could special summon like another copy of himself from the hand, not necessarily himself, but he could, and basically create a thing where you couldn't attack anything, and your opponent would just have to wait to attack, get a spell or something that would negate an effect. So Magnet's pretty useful. Next card, Super Heavy Samurai Thief. He's level 10 and he's got only 1,000 attack and 1,000 defense. However, he's extremely useful for this deck because he basically acts like an MST. You can special summon him from your hand, and after he's special summoned this way, you can't special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except for Super Heavy Samurais, which is kind of a bummer, but all the same, his effect is kind of worth it a lot of the time. You can tribute him and then destroy one card in your opponent's spell and trap card zone, and then you can set the destroyed spell or trap card to your side of the field, or destroy one card in your opponent's pendulum zone, and then place that destroyed card in your pendulum zone. So it's very useful because it gets around a lot of things that your opponent could actually use. If you're playing against like Pepe or Pepe Magicians, you can steal one of their pendulum monsters, which is very useful because then they can't summon it the next turn, or you could destroy one of the like somebody's back row and steal it back. So it kind of has like it's an MST plus like a Mimic Hat from the Toon deck. Um, it's pretty useful in that regard. Next card is Super Heavy Samurai Readiness. I only play 2 of this guy because he uh, when you take battle damage while you have no spell or trap cards in your graveyard, you can special summon him from your hand. And if you do, he can't be destroyed by battle or card effects for the rest of the turn. So he just essentially acts like a wall, and you just special summon him in defense mode and be done with it. So yeah, readiness is just a wall just in case you need to uh, just stall for the next turn. He's kind of like another 2 copies of Swiss Scarecrow, which I played 2 of. But readiness is pretty useful in the fact that also because he's also another super heavy samurai. Next card is Super Heavy Samurai General Jade. He's one of the new pendulum monsters. I don't know if he's already out, but if he's not already out, he's coming on Bosh. And you can summon him by tributing 1 Super Heavy Samurai monster. And when he's normal or special summon, you can change its when he's normal or special summon, change his battle position. So you want to make sure to normal or special summon him in attack position, so he automatically gets switched to defense. And then he can also attack while in face-up defense position, which is one of the main win conditions for Super Heavy Samurais. Their defenses are ridiculously high, so that you can just attack with them. And then I also play 1 Benkei. He has the overall effect where all of your Super Heavy Samurai monsters can attack while in face-up defense position, which is pretty useful. However, the fact that he needs 2 tributes, with the exception of when you have Flutist, um, it's kind of a nightmare just because tribute summons are kind of a thing of the past. Um, so Benkei, it's just hard getting him out, and he becomes cloggy in my opinion any more than 1. So Benkei at 1 is perfectly fine. Moving on, for the attachments, these guys kind of act like your spell and trap cards for the rest of the deck, essentially, with the exception of this engine here, which I'll go over later. Super Heavy Samurai Soulbuster Gauntlet. Okay, you can target 1 card. You can attach this guy to your opponent, to one of your Super Heavy Samurai monsters, and it gains 400 defense, which can be useful. But the main thing about him is that you can send him from your hand to the graveyard, and the defense of your monster becomes double its original defense until the end phase. So, and that can be activated during either player's turn, and that can be very devastating to your opponent a lot of the time. So Gauntlet is very useful. He's kind of like an honest for Super Heavy Samurais, which is pretty cool. Um, Next is the Searcher for the deck for Super Heavy Samurai specifically. Um, and what he does is he can equip himself to a Super Heavy Samurai and allows your Super Heavy Samurai monsters to do piercing, which isn't really the effect that we're looking at the moment. Uh, what you really want to do is that if you send from the field to the graveyard, you can add 1 Super Heavy Samurai from your deck to your hand, except another copy of himself, of course. But Soul Piercer is just really good in the fact that like you can just like equip him, and then if they try to MST it away, or for some other reason the monster is equipped to since the graveyard, that's cool. You get a search. Also, if you have a trumpeter on the field because you tributed him or he just recurred himself for whatever reason, you can tune with him and then also get a search from that as well. So, Soul Piercer is definitely very useful. I would not be playing this any less than 3 just because the deck really needs it. Finally, for the Super Heavy Samurai lineup, I am playing 1 Soulbang Cannon. Um, If your opponent during the battle phase activates a card effect while you control a defense position super heavy samurai monster, you can banish him from your graveyard and negate the activation. And if you do, destroy it and then destroy as many monsters on the field, and then both players take 1,000 damage. So he's he can negate an effect and then gets the dark hole effect as well, and then he also gets to hit for damage. So Soulbane Cannon is definitely pretty useful. He's very useful against the Cosmo matchup. Um, if for some odd reason you'd be playing this in a more competitive scene. But other than that, Soulbane Cannon isn't really as useful unless your opponent is activating random cards. Um, like it would have been more useful in like the past format than it would be right now, just because there were a lot more cards that people activated in the battle phase last format than they do now. So Soulbank Cannon, it's pretty useful but not always useful, so that's why I'm playing it at 1. He also boosts gives a good defense boost for 1,000, which can be very useful for these three. The next couple cards I want to explain, it's the engine of the deck. I'm playing a Geargia engine, and the reason why is because of Augur. When he's normal summoned, you can add one level 4 Earth Machine type monster from your deck to your hand, which is awesome. Most of the time, I would probably go for a Soul Piercer. The one restriction on him is that you cannot special summon monsters except machine type monsters, which is a bit of a bummer, just because you can't like go into like if you search for an accelerator, which I do play 2 of, you can really only go into Gear Gigant, which you can also get a search off of. It's good for deck thinning. It's an okay engine. It's definitely not the best. It could be a lot better if it didn't have the machine type restriction on it. But all the same, it's still pretty useful for the deck. Next is Effect Veiler. It negates effects. It's just you need some sort of effect negation. Another good card is Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. However, this deck is rather budget, so I felt that Effect Veiler, if you're going to be building super heavy samurais and you don't have Ghost Ogres and Snow Rabbits, you're not going to want to buy Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbits for super heavy samurais. So that's why I'm just choosing the 3 Effect Veilers, just because I felt like effect negation was just a little bit better than acting like negating an effect and then destroying a card. Just because Soulbang Cannon kind of does that already, and he's just a little bit more searchable in my opinion. So that's why. And then I also play 2 Swift Scarecrow because you can leave your field open quite often. So Swift Scarecrow is pretty useful for that as well. Finally, for the extra deck, also I'm going to go over these side cards in a bit, but the extra deck, I'm playing 2 Warlord Susanoo. He's very useful because one, he gets around. Like you can special summon if your opponent has a level 8 monster and you can target it, which is not always the case right now. But if they do, you can get around the restriction with the super heavy samurai monster with Battle Balls effect, which is pretty cool. You can also use General Jade or Big Benkei, preferably General Jade, just because it's when you get Benkei out, you really don't want to lose it, just because he's such a big beater. But anyway, Susanoo, he can attack while in defense position like all the other big super samurais, super heavy samurais. But you can also target one spell or trap card in your opponent's graveyard and set it to your side of the field, but banish it when it leaves the field. So it's another Mimicat effect, and it's a little bit more useful just because your opponent wouldn't get it back no matter what. For whatever reason, they would not get that card back. So Susanoo, pretty useful in that regard. Moving on, double Ogre Shooting Doji. I felt this guy was pretty useful just because he's honestly the easiest one to get out. He's a level 6, and he can attack while in defense position again. Also, when he's Synchro Summon, you can destroy all spell or trap cards on the field. So, he has the Heavy Storm effect, which is okay. I just gave a thumbs up, and just because I'm saying that because you guys can't see it. But, the last Super Heavy Samurai Synchro monster I'm playing is Super Heavy Samurai Beast Kyubi, and we're going to be getting this either in Bosch or in the near future. Um, I'm only playing one of him just because he's essentially just a big beater, and that's really it. And he's pretty useful right now just because, and especially against the Pendulum matchup, just because if he special summon in defense mode, he can again attack while in face up defense position. But also, he gains 900 defense for each special summon monster your opponent controls, so he can do a lot of massive damage against a pendulum based deck. So QB is very, very useful. For the other synchros, I'm playing one Trish, one Leo, one Black Rose, one Goyo, and one Armades. And then finally for the Xyz monsters, I'm playing triple Gear Gigant. I'm playing triple because he's the easiest one to go into, and he just thins the deck so much. I really wish I didn't have to play 3 of them, but just simply because of Augur, I feel like I have to a lot of the time. So Gear Gigant is useful. Um, and then if they had a level 7 synchro, it'd be a lot better. Just because you could search Trumpeter with Geargia Augur, and that would be just a really good play. Actually, no, he's level 6. Never mind. But never mind. Breebone of Insanity right there. But yeah, anyway, like you can do that with Ogre, Shooting Doji. Just summon Geargia Augur, search for a Trumpeter, special summon the Trumpeter, and go right into Shun Doji. So that's pretty useful. And then finally for the Xyz monsters, one 101 and one Abyss Dweller, just because I feel like for this deck, they're probably the best cards to go with. Finally, for some cards you can side or possibly main, depending on how like your locals is or whatever. Puppet Plant and Electric Virus, these are two hand traps. Again, you can discard them and take control of one face-up monster your opponent controls, depending on the type that it has. One, they don't target, which is very good. Electric Virus can take machine or dragon type monsters, so this is very, very useful against either the Magician Pepe with like Ignister, or the or like Odd Eyes too, like Odd Eyes Magicians. You can use this against. And Cosmos, notably, just so you can take control of their big ships. The next card, and the other card is Puppet Plant, which you can take control of Warrior Spellcaster type monsters. So that's very useful against the Magispector matchup. So Puppet Plant, very, very useful. Next card is Gamma and really you can substitute this for any Kaiju monster you want. Gamma is just the preferable one because it's the least amount of attack. And I consider it a hand trap in this deck because it's spot removal and it's not really that difficult to get over. I mean, most of the time you're going to be summoning Gear Gigant, one of the synchros or one of the big guys, and they're all able to get over Gameciel very easily. So he's a good card for spot removal of stuff, and it's good. It works well with the deck. And then finally, just in general, Vector Pendulum, the Draco Overlord. This is fantastic against any Pendulum matchup, just because it's a monster card, and yes, he counts as a spell while he's on the field, but when he's in the graveyard, if he were to somehow end up in the graveyard, it doesn't matter. He's not a monster in the graveyard. So it's very great. And the fact that it didn't negate cards in your opponent's pendulum zones, that's good for this deck just because pendulums are really big right now. So thank you guys for watching this deck profile. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, guys, have a nice day.